The pivotal incident transpired neither within a boardroom nor during an intense nocturnal dispute. Instead, it unfolded at 6:34 a.m. on the tarmac of San Francisco International Airport, witnessed by 8 discreet employees who feigned indifference yet attentively observed every nuance. Helena was aboard the aircraft, visible through the oval window with her hair neatly tied back, a corporate demeanor she adopted when business was at hand. Without descending the steps, she delegated her assistant, a 26-year-old named Tiffany who exuded practiced sympathy, a skill honed in front of mirrors. "Mr. Voss," Tiffany announced, hugging her iPad tightly. "Helena instructs me to inform you that this journey is exclusive for essential company shareholders. She mentioned the need to refine the guest list." I found myself standing there with my travel bag in hand, under 8 pairs of eyes pretending to scrutinize the morning mist rising from the bay. The jet engines roared, my coffee from the terminal remained warm in my grasp. "Just family?" I questioned. Tiffany looked surprised. "Core stakeholders," she corrected apologetically. "Mr. Voss." In those moments, something peculiar happened. Instead of anger or tears, I felt an eerie, almost clinical lucidity, as if all unnecessary thoughts in my mind vanished, leaving only the most vital truth. The reality was this: Helena had just committed the greatest blunder of her professional life, though she didn't realize it yet. I gathered my belongings, took a lingering sip of coffee, glanced once more at the oval window, smiled at no one in particular, and strode back towards the terminal. By the point their jet had risen above the Pacific, I was already on my laptop. Before I share what transpired next, please do me a favor. Click that subscribe button and enable notifications. 46 years ago, I began my journey, spent 2 decades constructing something from its foundations, and it took a bitterly cold tarmac encounter to truly grasp its meaning. If you've ever given your all to something, only for someone else to claim the accolades or even worse, dismiss you, then this tale resonates with you. Similar to the video below, share your experiences by commenting. Have you ever been misunderstood by someone who should have recognized your worth? I take time to read each and every one. Now, let's rewind to the start. My name is Cashin Voss, age 46, a software architect, essentially the person who devises methods to ensure intricate digital systems function harmoniously without collapsing. I've been doing this since my 20s, coding in a studio apartment in San Francisco's Sunset District with 3 roommates and a futon that had more springs than padding. 11 years ago, I encountered Helena Voss, who then went by Helena Drake, at a tech conference in downtown San Francisco. She was showcasing an idea for her startup Luminary Group, a digital agency she had been nurturing for 3 years. The concept was intelligent, the execution sharp, and the vision intriguing. After the panel, I approached her to ask about her back-end infrastructure, leading us to discuss for 3 hours over cold coffee in a corner of the convention center. Helena was intellectually gifted. It is crucial to emphasize this point, as nothing that transpired subsequently alters this truth. She possessed an intuitive knack for clients, a talent for fostering connections, and an uncanny ability to make everyone she met feel indispensable during the week. This trait is indeed rare, extremely rare. Luminary Group was her brainchild, born out of her insights, tenacity, and connections. I have never questioned this fact. However, Helena lacked technical expertise. Initially, Luminary generated annual income around $3.5 million, functioning on fundamental project management software and an ill-coordinated assortment of external tools. Instead of focusing on her creative and strategic skills, Helena was frequently firefighting operational issues. Approximately 18 months into our relationship, she requested my assistance without delegating responsibilities or control. In truth, over the subsequent 2 years, what I developed transformed everything. Dubbed the Luminary Operating System, though unofficially named as it wasn't billed, it was a bespoke software platform designed from scratch, encompassing every agency function: client onboarding, project monitoring, billing, resource allocation, team communication, performance analysis. Unlike subscription tools or app combinations, it was not segmented. Rather, it operated as an integrated whole. A custom-made system tailored for Helena's agency operations was developed by me personally. Initially coded during nights and weekends, later full-time post our marriage, when we decided I'd halt my consulting job commitments for a year to focus intensively on this project. This time span eventually extended to 3 years. The platform comprised of a dashboard that granted Helena continuous monitoring of every ongoing client assignment. It streamlined the billing process, which previously consumed her finance coordinator for 2 days monthly, into an automated system. An exclusive reporting engine was integrated that produced client performance reports within minutes, as opposed to the 4 to 6 hours spent manually by her team earlier. Additionally, I designed a robust security architecture to meet stringent enterprise-level compliance standards, enabling Helena to secure the Meridian financial contract, a 3-year deal valued at $9 million, serving as the foundation for the company's growth and expansion. Meridian's procurement group conducted a thorough technical evaluation prior to signing an agreement. The head of their security division explicitly informed Helena that Luminary stood out among 3 larger competitors due to its platform architecture. That evening, Helena called me with delight, barely able to speak her excitement. "They adore the system, Cassandra," she said. "We secured the deal. We dined at Catonia afterward. She requested premium wine. I proposed a toast to the team." I omitted reminding her that the platform they admired was mine. I didn't think it necessary. In hindsight, I had refined that approach into an art. I was the one who prepared for the gathering before its inception and then vanished as soon as guests arrived. I attributed my absence to being introverted. I justified it by stating Helena represented the company, which made sense. For several years, I told myself various reassurances that were merely soothing excuses to avoid confronting a situation I should have tackled earlier on. There's a certain type of unseen individual who is crucial for many organizations, not the one whose name appears in press releases, nor the one networking at client events, but rather the behind-the-scenes worker who ensures things operate smoothly. I was this person at Luminary Group for 7 years, and for those same 7 years, I thought sincerely that the people around me appreciated my contribution as much as you appreciate water, aware of its importance, even if not always consciously thinking about it. However, in retrospect, I now realize they may not have fully comprehended the magnitude of my role. The oversight I made was underestimating how simple it is for individuals to conflate long-term dependability with low worth. As something consistently functions, people tend to overlook the fact that someone ensured its operation. When this person fades into obscurity, it becomes effortless for those constantly in the limelight to think they were alone there all along. Over the subsequent 4 years, Luminary Group transformed from a $3.5 million specialty agency into a company generating around $40 million annually in revenue. Helena expanded operations to Los Angeles and Austin. She recruited Renata Bishop, an astute and competent individual, as her chief operating officer, who eventually became Helena's most reliable confidant, a role I should have given more thought to. I opted to remain in the background. This was my choice, sincerely. I'm not someone who craves applause. I designed systems. I maintained order. When something malfunctioned at 2 in the morning, I resolved it. In a 48-hour crunch, I constructed a custom API for a client's integration. For a Fortune 500 prospect's security audit, I compiled a comprehensive 73-page technical report that passed us. To Helena's clients, I was her spouse. To her staff, I served as a technical consultant, helpful yet reserved. In front of Helena's board, my presence barely registered. I convinced myself this was acceptable. However, I was mistaken. Upon reflection, I recognized the change occurring insidiously, much like a fissure in concrete that grows unnoticed until the entire section caves in. It began subtly. Helena omitted discussing the platform during client discussions and credited its functions to our exclusive technology without any recognition of who developed it. As Renata introduced outside technical experts to assess the system, I felt a slight sting, but acknowledged the business rationale. Discussions about a potential acquisition ensued with Nexus Partners, a large digital services company from Seattle, expressing keen interest in Luminary for around half a year. Their interest was pronounced. The platform was a major factor contributing to Luminary's allure. Over the course of 2 weeks, their due diligence team scrutinized every aspect with Renata, and I was omitted from all meetings when this happened. Upon inquiry about the reason, Helena smiled, patted my arm, and stated, "It's more appropriate to keep technical discussions confined internally for now. You understand how these matters typically transpire." I was unaware of how they usually unfolded, not like that. Approximately 3 months prior to the tarmac morning, Helena returned home with a document for me to sign. It was a reallocation contract. In essence, it stated that any software, systems, tools, or intellectual property I had crafted for Luminary Group would be officially transferred to the company upon signing, in exchange for a lump sum payment of $250,000. Read the document thrice, This is a buyout, I declared. It's a formalization, Helena replied. Nexus requires well-defined intellectual property documents. The attorneys insisted we need this signed before proceeding. Helena, our platform is worth far more than $250,000 to the company. The platform was developed during our marriage while you were unofficially aiding the business. This is typical practice. I gazed at my wife across our shared kitchen island in our Pacific Heights residence, a house boasting a bay view and a garden she had cultivated for 2 years. A sense of detached understanding returned to me then. I require time to consider, I said. She nodded as if the decision was already made. I did not sign. The ensuing weeks until the airport were peculiar, frigid in an unspoken and chilling way, leaving a frost in even the most mundane of moments. Evenings filled with discussions on logistics rather than genuine topics. Mornings when Helena departed for uninformed meetings. A week prior to the jet journey, I undertook an action I am not overly proud of, but I won't feign remorse. I carried out a discreet examination of the platform's access infrastructure. Being the original developer, I had designed the authentication and permission system. I was well versed in the construction of every access token, admin key, and integration token. And my investigation revealed that Renata Bishop and an Austin-based development firm named ClearPath Solutions had been trying to reverse engineer substantial sections of my platform for the past 4 months. They copied entire modules, removed my attribution from code comments, and seemed to be constructing a Luminary 2 system, allegedly to present to Nexus as a fresh rebuild that required no contributions from Cassie and Voss. Nearly finished, merely a few days left. 3 weeks from completion was when Helena dispatched her assistant down the jetway to dismiss me. Upon returning to the terminal, I settled at a table close to the window, booted up my laptop, and started writing. Most people underestimate what it takes to construct a software system from scratch. Every system has a framework, and the one who constructed that framework knows exactly where every piece fits. The reconstruction of ClearPath was impressive, truly so. They had skilled developers working diligently, but they were constructing upon my design without fully comprehending its intricacies. This meant there were hidden dependencies within their new code that still linked to components I managed. Let me emphasize this because it's crucial. I did not tamper with anything. I want to make this crystal clear as it carries significant importance. I did not corrupt their system. I did not compromise their data. I did not interfere in any way. That could be termed sabotage in its truest form. I took the following steps. I reclaimed ownership of my intellectual property by rescinding the API credentials that my custom-built reporting engine utilized to interact with their main database. I replaced the encryption keys for 3 security modules I designed and sole-authored the documentation for, and eradicated my authentication system from the integration layer, which was the foundation supporting the entire client-facing portal. No data loss occurred. No client information was altered. However, the platform became inoperable. Luminary Group's entire operational system, which powered every active client contract, billing cycle, report, and project timeline, the factor that had led a Fortune 500 company to select them over their competitors, went offline at about 8:23 a.m. Pacific time. The aircraft was already airborne for 41 minutes. Afterwards, I stayed in the airport terminal for some time, ordering another coffee. A family of 4 debated over improving their airplane seats en route to Denver. Meanwhile, a toddler dashed around a wheeled luggage while his elder sister expressed tired exasperation, typical of a 9-year-old who's been patient for far too long. I reminisced about the first time Helena and I journeyed across the Golden Gate Bridge jointly, an afternoon on a Sunday with no specific destination in mind, merely driving due to our novelty and eagerness to keep moving. She rested her feet on the dashboard and kept the window open despite the chill, giggling freely at my joke, an uninhibited laughter that's often forgotten in time. I recalled the $250,000 acquisition proposal. I pondered over Tiffany standing on the plane stairs with her iPad. My phone signaled. It was Renata Bishop. I declined to pick up the call. Over the following 4 hours, I received 14 calls, 3 from Renata, 2 from Helena's assistant Todd, a considerate individual named Todd whom I could sense his concern for me, 1 from Patricia Chen, the CFO of Luminary, 4 unrecognized numbers presumed to be from ClearPath's development team in Austin regarding their integration layer issue, and lastly, 4 calls from Helena herself. I answered the 4th one. She didn't greet with a hello. "The system is down," she said, her voice controlled as if suppressing panic. I mean, the entire platform is offline. We have our Meridian quarterly review in 6 hours, and we cannot generate a single report. I acknowledged. Yes, I understand. The system is currently unavailable. Silence filled the line, a palpable silence. What exactly do you mean by "I know"? I am aware that the system is not functioning properly. It was I who shut it down. Pause, longer than usual. You orchestrated this intentionally. Helena, your firm has been constructing a substitute for my platform using my very own framework as the base without my awareness or approval, and then attempting to acquire me for $250,000 before the deal was finalized. I had little else to do but act in such a manner. Her voice shifted then. The facade of control began to crack. Cashin, there are clients. There are jobs at stake. There are contracts, I understand. I created the system that upholds all these contracts. You must reactivate it immediately. I will, once we engage in an honest dialogue, one that incorporates my lawyer and a fair evaluation of the intellectual property I have developed for this company over 7 years. There was silence on her end for a prolonged duration. The hum of an airport could be heard in the background. Clearly, she hadn't traveled far. When did you learn about this? She queried at last. Regarding ClearPath, it's been a few weeks. Did you decide not to tell me? I was wondering if you would disclose it yourself. After another prolonged silence, she spoke again, losing all semblance of control and revealing something raw, echoing more of the woman from our journey over the Golden Gate Bridge than the one who had sent her assistant down the jetway with an iPad. I mishandled this, she admitted. Yes, I responded. You did. Return home, Cashin. I will too. Home once we have a deal. I'd like to take a moment here because I can hear some of you thinking. You're wondering, why didn't he speak up? Why didn't he confront her the instant he learned about ClearPath? Why didn't he sit down opposite Helena and say, I'm aware of what you're doing. We need to be truthful with each other right now? It's a reasonable question. The straightforward answer is that I had been attempting to initiate that discussion for 3 months, in every way except for the conversation itself. I withdrew signals, posed thoughtful inquiries, facilitated circumstances allowing Helena to initiate the discussion herself, approach me, express her concerns, and propose a solution we could jointly negotiate. I desired her to make that choice. Truly, I did. However, the other option, the one we ultimately faced, was never my intention, despite my meticulous execution once the moment arrived. She didn't opt for that. Thus, the events of the tarmac morning were not hasty. They marked the conclusion of a drawn-out, silent countdown during which I afforded her multiple chances to intervene. The subsequent 72 hours were the most legally and emotionally convoluted periods in my life, surpassing even a divorce, a failed startup, and a family matter involving my brother, which necessitated legal representation, mediation, and 2 distinct Thanksgiving dinners for 3 consecutive years. My attorney's name was Douglas Fairweather, whom I had hired personally 3 weeks prior, following Helena presenting me with a buyout agreement. Douglas was meticulous, typical of truly proficient individuals, quiet in his diligence, comprehensive, and unaffected by anyone else's deadlines. Helena's legal team worked swiftly and expensively, highly motivated. The Nexus Partners acquisition hinged on a clear resolution of intellectual property rights, and for every hour the platform remained inoperable, they felt the repercussions tangibly. I wasn't unreasonable. I want to emphasize this as well. Douglas and I entered into our discussions with 3 specific demands. Firstly, formal documentation acknowledging my authorship and architectural input to the Luminary operating system across all pertinent company records, and any materials supplied to Nexus during the acquisition process. Second point, accurate market valuation of my intellectual property, IP, contribution, not a predetermined buyout figure, but an assessment done by an external technical evaluator. Third point, a consulting contract that mirrored the reality of my continued involvement, as ClearPath's rebuild still relied on my architecture, necessitating my input for at least 18 months following any acquisition. The evaluation was completed in 12 days. The IP contribution was assessed at $4.3 million. The platform I developed at a cost of $250,000 was valued at $4.3 million. Nexus proposed $3.8 million. We agreed on $4.1 million, along with the consulting contract and formal credit documentation. At the end of the meeting, Douglas extended his hand, which for him was equivalent to a standing ovation. I vacated the Pacific Heights house a week after the agreement was finalized, not in a dramatic or angry manner. I organized my belongings systematically, as I do with any packing job, displaying efficiency and minimizing clutter. Then, Helena and I temporarily resided in a fully furnished apartment within the Mission District as we contemplated our future. Although we haven't divorced yet, the discussion about it is underway. My emotions towards Helena are intricate, much like the complexities of an 11-year shared history isn't clean or swift in reality, unlike what you might see in films. I don't despise her. It's uncertain if I can completely extinguish my love for her, or if such a transformation occurs without the messiness portrayed in movies. What I am certain of is that she made decisions that relegated me to less than a partner. Not just on the tarmac, and not merely with the buyout offer, but in a prolonged sequence of actions that shifted me from being a crucial part of our joint construction to becoming an observer of her solo project. I too realized I prolonged the situation longer than necessary, conflating silence with humility, persuading myself that not seeking acknowledgement equated to undeserving it, two distinct concepts. 6 weeks post-move, I encountered Todd, Helena's aide, at a coffee spot on Valencia Street. He was grabbing a cold brew and paused upon seeing me, displaying the hesitance of someone questioning if recognition is warranted. I beckoned him over. "How are you?" I inquired. Todd weighed giving me the professional reply, but opted against it. "Truthfully, it's been hectic. The Nexus deal sealed last week. Renata received a generous package. Tiffany was promoted. And Helena," he hesitated, "she's doing well, working diligently. I believe he paused, considering his words. I believe she's viewing things from a fresh perspective." I nodded in agreement. "He informs me she inquires about you, not oddly but casually." I expressed gratitude and allowed him to resume his day. "Currently, I'm composing this in my Mission District apartment. It's a Sunday morning, the ideal kind in San Francisco when the fog is dense enough to give the city an exclusive feel for those present before 10 a.m. in hand. I hold coffee. On my laptop. A fresh consulting task awaits, unrelated to Luminary Group, a healthcare data company based in South San Francisco requiring a novel integration architecture and presenting an intriguing issue I've pondered all week. My life deviates from what I anticipated at 46. Yet there is a lesson I've gleaned, something I wish someone had shared with me a dozen years ago before I began surrendering fragments of myself to something that didn't appreciate their worth. The labor you perform holds value regardless of whether it's being accounted for. The systems you create, the issues you resolve, the things you efficiently operate in the background while others bask in recognition, these items hold genuine worth. This value is tangible, quantifiable, and legally recognized, often financial. However, if you persist in undervaluing this, someone else will be more than happy to let you continue unconvinced, as it suits them well. Cassie and Voss labored for 7 years on an extraordinary project, only for him to recall one frosty morning that it was his possession. I won't disclose the story's conclusion because I'm still living it. The consultancy contract lasts 18 months. Divorce discussions persist. The apartment in the Mission District offers good afternoon light. And within a server room in Seattle, a platform I constructed from scratch is operating flawlessly as intended, serving clients who will remain unaware of my identity. But I know myself, and that, it seems, is sufficient. I've been mulling over this tale for some time, and it isn't the wealth or the jet that bothers me. It isn't the platform either. What troubled me is the realization that Cassie and I spent 7 years under the impression that performing good work subtly was sufficient. Many of us find ourselves in similar situations at work or in relationships, assuming loyalty speaks for itself. However, loyalty rarely speaks for itself. You have to assert yourself because those who reap the most benefits from your silence are unlikely to be the ones who will break it on your behalf. That responsibility falls on you.